Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MixoChat series for Mixotype. My name is Namir. I'm sitting here with my good friend, Joseph Craven. So Joe is someone special because I went to Temple University with him, and he was incredible in all of his classes. He was studying geology. The reason why we brought him on to this conversation today is because he had an interesting turn of events that happened throughout his life. So as he was studying geology and he was trying to reinvent himself, he had some shortcomings where he basically relapsed. And he had these incredible struggles with addiction. And the reason why I think this is such an important topic to talk about is because you'll find that as you go throughout your own journey of becoming the best version of yourself, there's going to be pitfalls that happen along the way. And sometimes they're neurological. Sometimes there's things that you just can't exactly control easily. It's not the same as like me craving a potato chip. No, in this case, you're craving heavy narcotics or other things at an extreme level that most people just will never understand. But it's important to know that no matter where you are on your path or on your journey, that there are ways to transcend all of this. And as you're trying to become the best version of yourself, as you look into the future, you have to create an environment in which you're designed to succeed. What I've learned from speaking with Joe is that your journey is not just like a solo mission. You can't just do it on your own. No matter where you are, you need to create the right ecosystem around you. You got to have the right contacts, the right friends. You really got to invest in yourself so that you can become the best version of yourself. So, Joe, thank you for joining me on this MixoChat.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about yourself. What has your journey been like? I mean, I remember we went to Temple University around 8-9 years ago. So it's been a while. I mean, I graduated back in 2012. And I know at that point in your life, like you were just early, like 30s or so, you had just decided to go back to school. You wanted to become successful. You want to get really good grades and you were crushing it. I mean, you were just all your classes, you almost made it look easy as how easily you made it so that you would get A's in some of the most complex topics like organic chemistry, math, all that type of stuff. And I thought that you were going to just crush it. Even at that time, it seemed like you were still trying to figure yourself out, but I think you were leaning more towards geology. And I remember the last conversation I had with you on the phone was I met this guy who owned a remediation company, and it was like this incredible opportunity. Like I was talking to him and they were dealing with the excavation of like minerals and rocks and all this type of stuff, and I called you up and saying, hey Joe, I've got this golden opportunity for you. This guy wants you to call him. And then I kind of fell off from there, but it turned out that you were going on this whole journey of like just battling your own demons. So like, let's talk about it. Let's go back a few years. Like when did you figure out that you were an addict, and what was your journey like? How did it spiral out of control? Let's just go to the beginning of all of this.
All right. I can start from the very beginning of all of it. I mean, looking back now, I think I knew I was an addict probably as early as like 5 or 6 years old.
5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
How do you know at 5 or 6?
Well, looking back in hindsight,
that's incredible.
You know what I mean? You one of the things you deal with when you go through therapy and in and out of treatment centers, you start to, and it's kind of like the basis of the 12. I'm sure we've all heard of the 12 steps of AA. Is figuring out like your character defects, they call them in the AA Big Book. They call them character defects. So. And one of the biggest things with an addict is like, it's never enough and I want what I want and I want it now. And like looking back as a kid, I had those behaviors with toys. I had those behaviors in school. And we'll fast forward from there. I mean, I was a early bloomer when it came to drug use. Can I get like somewhat graphic on here? So I was an IV heroin user at the age of 15. I was smoking crack when I was 14, and I was skipping school. The only reason, like you said, about my grades, I mean, for some reason, school came easy to me, no matter what subject it was, no matter what assignment I got. That's probably the only reason I graduated high school, was because my grades were so good. From there, I was just in and out of treatment. By the time I met you, I'd probably gone to about 15. So I'm 40 now. When I met you, I think you were probably spot on, probably around 30.
Yeah.
And I'd probably gone to, at that point, about 15 different rehabs. I went to my first one when I was 15. And it was just, addiction has just been something I've always struggled with. And I guess what it was for me was I just never really liked I don't want to say who I was. I never felt comfortable being Joe, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. So why not?
So I just didn't like who I was. I didn't like the things that I had done in my past. I didn't like the fact that I kept messing up and letting my family down. But at the same time, I couldn't control it. No matter what I did, every time I took a step forward, it was like 2 steps back. And through working on myself and, one of the biggest things I had to work on was that, I guess that I had to learn was that wherever I went, like I always tried new things. Like I went to I was like, all right, maybe I'll go to college. I'll try Temple. But what happened there was the same thing that always happened was wherever I went, I was still there. So I had to fix myself before I could go on and do other things.
That's brilliant. Like there's this Zen quote where it goes pretty much says what you just said, which is like, no matter where you go, you are who you are.
I wanted to move out west. I was going to do all this stuff, relocate, get away from North Philly and this and that, get away from the city, all the spots I knew, but like it wouldn't have mattered. Because the problem isn't the drugs. The problem, and we tell this at my work, we tell it like whenever, like the people that I sponsor, I'm not sponsoring right now, but like when I do, like the drugs aren't the problem at all. Like and I think that's a common misconception of the general public that I haven't really dealt with it.
The drugs are not the problem.
The drugs are not the problem. I mean, obviously there's a physical addiction, so that's an issue. But the drugs aren't the issue. There's an underlying issue that's causing you to do the drugs. And there's something, the drugs are, like for me, they just numbed me. And like I didn't have to feel that other stuff.
Really?
So like if I got high, I didn't have to think about the fact that like, well, I don't know, I owed this person money, like the relationship with my father, or like, I don't feel like I fit in with my own friends. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. If I just got high, none of it mattered. You know what I mean? But that wasn't the issue. The issue was that it was like an inside job that was causing me to feel that way. And for me personally, what it came down to was a lot of like self-love, I guess you would say, self-esteem issues, which is where like the yoga came in when I started to get big into yoga. Just that helped a lot with that. A lot of it, honestly, Numair, was just hard work, man. Like putting yourself in uncomfortable situations so that the more you're in them, the more comfortable you feel. You know?
Talk about that. So what were the uncomfortable situations that you put yourself into?
Like, so when you're going through, are you familiar with like the 12 steps?
I've heard of them, but I can't say I'm
they're
an
basically
expert.
So there's obviously 12 steps, and they're basically it's like the first part of it is like belief in a higher power, whether you want to call that God or whatever you want to call it. It's belief in a higher power. It's basically like trusting something outside yourself so that you're not just running on your own will.
Okay.
Because like my will and my decisions are never good. And it's like trusting that like things happen for a reason.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, because when I was actively using, if I had a bad day, my immediate thought was to get high.
Oh.
Where now that I'm clean and like and I've done some work on myself, when I have a bad day, it's just kind of like stuff happens, man. Like everything's gonna be fine. Tomorrow's a new day. Like we're gonna get through the issue. Like it's cool. You know what I mean? Like it's not a big deal. Like the world isn't ending. Like it's fine. You know what I mean? So that's the first part, is like a belief in a higher, like some type of higher power. And then it gets into like a moral inventory, they call it.
What's that?
So moral inventories, the exact wording in there is searching and fearless moral inventory. So it's basically everything you've ever felt bad about in your entire life. So, and usually they break it down into categories. There's like sexual, then there's relationships, both with like significant others and family and friends. Then there's one with yourself. And then maybe one that deals with maybe, for lack of better words, like crimes. You know what I mean? Like when I stole from my family, like that kind of stuff. And then the 12 steps gets into making your amends for that. So you go around, like you make up this list and you make up the amends. So what that does is it gets that weight off your shoulders. All this stuff that has been building up that I feel bad about. They're like, oh, they're never going to forgive me. Well, usually they do. And they don't care. They just want to see you get better. And then the last part of the 12 steps is doing that type of thing every single day.
I thought the last step was teaching others, no?
Well, it is. But the last part of it is that like daily moral inventory and basically giving away what you got back from the program, and which is teaching others. So like leading by example, kind of. So that's the 12 steps. And, you know, through doing that kind of stuff, I learned that there was a lot of things in my life that went back as far as my childhood that caused me to just not be able to face reality, do stuff like not finish school, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And it was an eye-opener, man. I had done the 12 steps before, but never like an honest effort. And I never got like fully honest with anybody, which was one of my main issues also. And it was a eye-opener to like start to go around and have like real conversations with my father and like have real conversations with my mother and my brothers and like some of my friends and like start to make some of these amends. And, you know, and through doing all that, like I've come to the conclusion that like now I'm okay with being Joe. I'm happy being Joe, and I'm not afraid to go anywhere and bring Joe with me. And, you know, I've come up with like ways to deal with stuff like that, and like everything's good, man.
What's that? What's it like to reach out? Because you said that you've gone through like this program 15 times at least, and
22 total.
22
rehabs, yeah.
22 rehabs. Was the 22nd time the time that you finally took it seriously?
No. So after my last rehab,
when was that?
This was, well, let me think. September will be 5 years sober. So like 5.5 years ago. So like 2014, 15-ish.
Okay.
I came out and got high that same day.
Really?
Yeah. And I was on probation. And I knew when I got called into probation, I was obviously going to give a bad drug test, and I didn't want to get locked up again. So I went on the run. Well, they call it on the run. It sounds worse, but I just didn't report. So they put a warrant out for you. And after doing that for a few weeks, I ended up getting caught up and locked up. And then I got bailed out by my brother, probably for the last time ever, and got high again that same day.
Seriously?
Yeah, went on the run again. And that's when after just maybe like 2 weeks tops, I just kind of hit the end of my road and was like, what am I doing here? I got in a bunch of trouble.
Like what?
So I did a drug court program. Are you familiar with the drug court?
No.
So drug court, they have them all over the country. Drug court's like, they call it treatment court.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like people like me repeat long-term offenders for drug charges or drug-related charges. And it's an absolute last chance program before they ship you away to state prison for a long time. I was in there I got charged with 14 felonies. I was looking at around a decade in state prison.
Seriously, a decade?
Yeah. 8 to 12 was my max sentence.
8 to 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
For drug charges?
No, so mine were retail theft.
Oh, okay.
I mean, obviously I had some possession charges and stuff like that, but mine were retail theft, and it was, they do this a lot. I mean, what it was a few different stores. So there was like 4 different stores, and then it doesn't take much of a dollar amount for it to reach a felony. So then it's like, this dollar amount's one felony, this dollar amount's another felony, this dollar amount's another felony. So they had me for like 3 or 4 stores, but for like pretty high dollar amounts. And it ended up being like 14. And then I had absconding, which is going on the run, like not reporting probation. I had like possession of paraphernalia. Yeah, I had charges from the one time I overdosed and ran. There's a bunch of them. So drug court's like I said, it's this last chance, and it's an intense program. You work with the court system. You're drug tested all the time. You have to go to probation, get drug. There's this number you call. You have a PIN number. You punch it in. It tells you if you got to go in or not. You have like a 2-hour window. If you don't make it in there in that 2-hour window, it's considered a positive it's considered that you gave them a bad drug test. And then it's, like I said, it's a treatment court. So what they do is they try and change behavior. So they try and make you accountable. They try and make you follow like schedules, like routine schedules. They made me live in a recovery, like a sober home. I had to go to intensive outpatient, which 3 days a week, 3 hours of group therapy each time. I had to do individual therapy twice a week, and I had to do the drug testing. You have to report to the judge. You meet with the judge one-on-one, anywhere from once a month to once like every other month. And it was 3 years long. And then it's another year where you still call in to see if you have to go in for a drug test. But for me, with my history, like the first 76 days, I had to pee in a cup every single day.
76 days.
Straight. I had no car. I was living in a recovery house in North Wales.
This is in 2014?
15.
15, okay.
I was living in a sober home that was about 15 miles from where I had to pee in a cup. Would bike to the bus, get off the bus, bike to there, back to the bus, to work all day, then to group at night, back home, day in and day out. And then as you go through it, there's like different phases. As you go through it and you don't give them bad drug tests, or you're doing well in treatment, like they kind of lighten up their supervision on you. So they try and like reward you. You know what I mean? Like if you do well, you won't have to come see us as much.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's long term. It's like I said, it's like 3 years. But then there's the other side of it, which I was so done with getting high and like just that in and out game, and it had gotten so bad for me that it wasn't an issue for me. But just to give a little bit more clarity on drug court is like, rather than when I was on regular probation, if I went in for a drug test and it came up for something, they just toss you in jail for 30 days. But drug court, if you give a bad drug test, they give you like a weekend in jail. Okay. And they might be like, you know what, this week you have to do this many meetings. They might punish you for like 2 weeks by making you a couple more meetings, a couple more groups, maybe another individual therapy session, like something like that. They might drug test you a little bit more for those first 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So it's more like a slap on the wrist. But then if you keep doing it, obviously the punishments get more severe, but that's how it works. So it's like they try and change your behaviors, which is really what people like me needed, just and that's probably a whole nother conversation. The difference between whether addiction is a criminal or a medical issue, and it's not a criminal issue. You know, because just throwing somebody in jail is not the fix. You know,
right? I mean, it's deeper than that. So what is the fix? I mean, so you had to go through so many like rehabilitations. Was it the rehab that fixed it, or that helped you out, or was it like a decision that you actually finally wanted to? Did you still have to hit rock bottom, or what was it like?
My opinion is it's both. So the biggest thing that got me here and will get me to 5 years sober, or even just let's call it tomorrow, you know what I mean? Because every day is a victory, is my desire to stay clean. Like my desire to just not go back to that life that I was living.
How does it feel to be clean as compared to what you were before? Does it feel better? Does it feel worse? I mean, is that...
Oh, it's better.
It is better.
It's just nice, like, not to have to hide anything. And, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just have, like, normal, healthy relationships with people. Like, I got nothing to hide. You know what I mean? And when somebody like you calls me and they're like, hey, do you want to come talk? Like, yeah, I'll be there. And there's that, and like, you don't have to worry about me being here. Like, if I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I show up to work, I get a bi-weekly paycheck. You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. Like, it's, I never had that. I mean, I did. I've obviously had jobs in the past, but like, not like this. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like for somebody like me, and this is probably why it's so foreign to you a little bit, like little stuff like that is such a big deal because my life was so fucked up I'm sorry, can I not?
No, yeah, you can.
Okay.
Go ahead, you can curse.
For so long, you know what I mean? That like, it was so chaotic for so long that you get used to living in that chaos that when you first get clean, it's kind of like, you're almost like creating chaos because you're like, man, shit's like too quiet. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, what's going on here, you know? But you learn to appreciate like the simple life and like nothing makes me happier than just like getting up and going to work and coming home and working out and playing some video games. Like, that's all I want to do, man.
It's incredible. It's like the simple stuff. Like, you found a way to just appreciate just being, I guess, normal because life has been anything but normal for so long.
Yeah. It's chaotic, man. It's not easy being out. Like, it's weird. Like, at first, it's fun. When I was younger, it's fun. Just getting high, partying. It's fun. But then, like, and it's probably, like, if you do research on it, it's probably one of the things you read most about is, like, and then, like, say we were in high school, right? I'm sure you did a little bit of partying in high school, maybe, or you know people that did.
I know people, yeah.
You know what I mean? But they go to college and, like, get out of college, and they kind of, like, ease off it a little bit.
Yeah.
Where I was still full tilt, like, let's go. Tuesday morning, I'm in. You know what I mean? Like, it was just never enough. So, like, to be able to quiet that down a little bit and just kind of, like, be okay with where things are and, like, how things are going and just, like, for me, a big thing I work on is gratitude, like, just being grateful for, like, the things that I have.
Do you write your gratitude out? Do you write that out, or do you just...
I used to, I guess, now I go through phases with it. I used to do it every day. Like, when I first got clean, yeah, for sure. I was white knuckling it when I first got clean, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am just a true, like, down to my core, just a straight heroin addict. Like, there's nothing I love more than just getting high. And I'm not the type, like, some people will, when you get to treatment or therapy, like, some people will tell you, like, oh, that changed for me. Like, it didn't. It didn't change for me. I've learned that I can't do that. I've learned it's a really, really bad idea for me to do that. And then it's interesting, what I've learned recently over the last probably year is that people ask me, like, how like, if it gets any easier. Because, you know, it's always a shocker. Like, you meet people at the gym. I go to you know, Lifetime Fitness? It's like big fancy gyms.
I think I've heard of it. Yeah.
So there's these big fancy gyms, and I go to this one in well, it's King of Prussia, but it's technically like Wayne. It's like real ritzy. So a lot of those people, you're like in recovery, and they're like, "Whoa, like, oh, you were a heroin addict? Like, stay away from me." And it's like, well, on one hand, it's like, all right, screw you, you know what I mean? But then they ask you, like, does it get any easier? And my answer is always this: like, it doesn't. For me, I can only speak for myself. For me, it doesn't get any easier per se, but what gets significantly harder is giving up the things that I've gotten back from staying clean.
That's wow.
So like my desire to, and you know, if I had a really shitty day, the thought goes through my head. But one, it's like, seems like such a chore nowadays. Like, I drive all the way down the city. I'm going to spend this money. Like, I got to pay my cell phone bill. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. But like, I think about stuff like my nephews. Like, I wouldn't be able to see them. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
Like, doing that to my mother, the relationship with my girlfriend, my friends, like the people at work that I work with. The clients at work, you know what I mean? Like I guess I like to think they do. They look up to me, you know what I mean? My nephews are young enough that like they will probably never remember seeing me the way that I was. You know what I mean? When I went into my last treatment, my brother told me if he ever sees me driving down the street in Conshohocken, he's going to call the cops. Like, I wasn't even allowed near their house. Now I go over there every Sunday for dinner.
Huh.
I mean, I talk to my nephews almost every day. So, like, giving up that kind of stuff gets really hard. Like, I'm not necessarily I can be a little bit, I'm not going to lie, but, like, I try not to be, like, materialistic. But, like, all I ever wanted was a new car. I got a new car. You know what I mean? A nice one. And, like, that's gone if I make that decision to go back out. Like, that stuff's gone. Like, I got a nice apartment. Like, you know, I got probably the best relationship I've ever had with an amazing girl. Gone. Her daughter loves me. Gone. You know what I mean? So, like, that gets hard to give up. It makes it not worth it.
Dude, this is such a mind-blowing, like, my mind is blown. Because, look, I'm not a heroin addict. I've never tried this stuff. I almost think, like, if I were to try it, I probably wouldn't, like, I wouldn't get addicted to it probably. And that's also me not knowing what I'm talking about, because other people will say, no, it's like once you take it once, like, you're done. So I don't know. But what I'm saying is that the reason why I bring this up is just hearing you talk. You're saying that what made it stick for you was not so much the fact that it got easier abstaining from heroin, but it got harder for you to, like, you couldn't face the fact that if you had lost all the stuff that you built, that would have destroyed you. And that's what kept you going. And it's interesting. You're making me see another perspective. It's like, yeah, when you do better yourself, in effect, you're also creating a better life for yourself as well. And so just the day-to-day minutia, it might not seem that big. Oh, well, like, let me just stick a needle in my arm today. Or, you know what, I'll relate it more so to the mainstream. Like, let me have that extra cookie or that cake or whatever. And let me just eat like a slob today. It's fine. But what you're not realizing is that when you better yourself, you yourself are saying now your clients are looking up to you. They're looking up to you for inspiration. And if you're the guy that kind of relapses, then suddenly they think that they don't have it within themselves to better themselves. If they now see, oh, he's got this incredible girlfriend, her daughter loves me, her daughter loves him, and he's got this beautiful car. See, the thing about materialism is, like, I think materialism could be a great thing. See, my thing is, like, yeah, I know there's the other end of the spectrum, which is like, you know, material objects can kind of blind you from the truth and whatever. But I think there's this whole thing about, like, spirituality, which is kind of Like, I don't agree with it. I think that you should buy nice cars. I think you should buy nice houses. I think you should have incredible things in your life. I think you should have beautiful materialistic possessions, not because like you need them, but because why not live an expansive life, right? Why not build yourself up to become the best possible version of yourself? But do it in a healthy way where it's not like you're seeking the gratification of the thing that you're getting, but it's just a nice addition to your life. And then to kind of relate that with what you're talking about, which is like, oh, well, I've got this nice house, I've got this nice job, I've got this nice pair of sneakers, I've got this incredible relationship. And all these things that I built were built off of my aspirational identity. See, that's the thing. You didn't build these things off of your addictive personality. You built them off of your healed personality. So you can become like a drug lord if you want. You can actually go Breaking Bad style. You can actually start selling narcotics and build an entire lifestyle off of that. Yeah, you can still have family and friends, but they're going to betray you. And the girls that are around you, they're not going to be there for you when you're like in your like despair, right? So what you did, which is really interesting, is you first figured out how to heal yourself. And once you healed yourself, you felt like you were becoming a better person. And then based off of that, you started to make choices that a better person would make. And based off of that, you've created this lifestyle around you that only this better person can have. And what you're saying is that if you step away from that, if you relapse and you just take one day you decide to stick a needle in your arm or take some other type of drug, it might be a momentary high, it might feel incredible, but what it's also going to do is it's going to strip away your family again and the girlfriend. And what you've also done is you've upped the ante as well, because before it might have been just your brother who would have bailed you out probably the millionth time, your mother who just loves you unconditionally, but now you've got this girlfriend, you got this job, you got clients who look up to you, you got this entire ecosystem that you've built. And so your whole thing is, if you step away from that, then it's going to hurt more to lose all that you've built than it would just to get high for a day, right?
Yeah. I mean, it just like it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like for a few hours to feel physically some type of way, it's not worth it than it would be to just like be down on yourself for a couple hours. You know what I mean? Like everybody has shitty days. Like it's all right. You know what I mean?
And so like, you said yoga was something that really helped you. How did you come to find yoga, and how did yoga help you?
So I actually kind of, I don't want to say fell into yoga, but
maybe
part of my recovery was I wanted to start working out. One of my things, I had like I said before, some self-esteem issues, and as stupid as it sounds, I just wanted to look good at the beach. So I started working out. And then I was at this fancy gym, which is not cheap. And the pool had closed. They got a pool there. The pool had closed for the summer. And I was like, well, if I'm just going to come here and lift weights, I'm spending an awful lot of money to go to a building to lift weights, because I could go do that at Planet Fitness for $10.
$10. Right.
So I was like, let me see. Part of the lifetime thing that they market, and one of the things that makes them is they have every week there's like 100 different classes you can go to that are included in your membership. Like big time, not big, like very seasoned instructors, you know what I mean, that can teach. Sorry. So I'd always had this, for some reason I'd always wanted to try yoga. I don't know why. And then when the pool closed down, I was like, all right, I got to do something here. I either got to leave this place and come back in the summer, or start doing some of these classes to make my money well spent, you know, because there's a lot of money, and I wasn't making a lot of money at the time at all. Like I probably shouldn't have been paying for that gym membership at the time anyway. Mm-hmm. And I tried one class and I just instantly was hooked. It was like everything I was looking for.
What did it do for you? Why were you hooked?
Well, I'm sure I've seen your workout journey. I'm sure maybe you're not there yet, but eventually you get to a point where you're just kind of like, this is boring. Like you get into the gym, you're like, oh, chest day again. Sweet. You know what I mean? So I kind of wanted something different. than that. And I wanted, I don't know, I think that was really just it. Like, I just wanted something different. So I tried this class, and it was just like this the first one I tried wasn't. The first one I tried, I didn't know was more of like a meditation thing. But what she was talking about just really resonated with me. And then I was like, all right, I'll give it another shot. And I went to like a heated, like vinyasa flow yoga class that just whooped my ass up and down. I was in a pool of sweat, like could barely walk out of there. After 1 hour, I didn't have to think about anything while I was there. I got an insane workout. I sweat like crazy, and I felt amazing after. And I was like, sign me up. I don't have to think about what I'm doing when I go to the gym anymore. So I just kept going. As stupid as it sounds, the idea of going to the gym, like right now you plan your workouts, right?
I mean,
somewhat.
I have a routine that I follow, so it's been pre-planned, but I follow it, yeah.
Yeah, eventually it's gonna, I mean, for me, it got stagnant, you know what I mean? That's what happened, and then I went, and I was like, man, I can just come to this class. I know I'm only gonna be at the gym for an hour, and you're gonna tell me what to do? I'm in, I'll see you tomorrow. And I just kept going, and then I started to I felt better than I ever did from just working out, just like weight training and like the small amount of cardio that I used to do. And I just kept going, man. And I just fell in love with it. It was great.
You were in a pile of sweat, a pool of sweat, and you felt better than you ever had. Was it because this class pushed you?
Absolutely. And part of it was because I'm like next to this 110-pound girl who's just crushing this class. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, she's not even breaking a sweat. And I was dying, you know what I mean? It was like the hardest thing I ever did. And I was like, I can't let this girl show me up, you know? That was part of it, my ego a little bit, you know? But I just kept going, and I started to get a lot out of it, but physically and mentally. Like, physically, like I said, I felt better than I ever did. There's a lot of stuff that you work out in yoga that you just will not get from weight training. Like a lot of these like small stabilizing muscles, a lot of core work that you get with the whole thing. The learning how to breathe, like the breath in yoga is opposite than what you're used to with weight training. So that was a big thing. And then just a lot of this, like, I guess it's probably like stereotypical stuff that they talk about in yoga classes is just something that I really resonate with. Like, we'll jump back a little bit. Like, one of the biggest things I always struggled with getting clean was that first part of the 12 steps, the belief in the higher power. And when I really started to like put in some work and try and figure out like what it is that I believe in, and then I went to this yoga class, I was like, this is the shit I've been talking about in my head the whole time. Like, it wasn't like a lot of people, you know, they might go to church every Sunday and they believe in God, like Jesus Christ. They're like, whatever it might be, like that wasn't it for me. For me, it was just like this connection with other people's energy and like just like the earth. And like, I felt more at peace when turns out I love hiking. That's something I found out like through getting clean. Like, I feel a connection when I'm out there in places like that. And like, that's my higher power. And like, that's the kind of stuff that they talk about in yoga, and just like this, being in touch with like your own energy and like other people's energy and like being kind to others. And like, that was just kind of the path I was on at the time. You know what I mean? It was like the stuff I was trying to work on myself at the time. And it just kind of, I walked into the yoga studio, I guess, at the right time in my life and fell in love with it.
What I find jolting is, and in a good way, you're making me realize something, which is, so a lot of us, we go throughout life, we're in like in a stupor, we're like in a haze, right? Like, all right, well, let me wake up, all right, let me eat this breakfast, all right, let me drive. And a lot of us, we're still distracted, we're never really fully present. And so we can never really feel the moment. And one of the things I found is that when I was deeply immersed in my work, whatever it was, and it wasn't constant, but whenever I found a way to get myself into that state of mind where I'm fully focused, like time would stop, I was in that flow state, and I felt this incredible connectedness. And I love those moments of peak experience. And I'm starting to have more of them more often because I've designed my life in such a way where I'm constantly pushing myself. And one of the things I found from what you said is that, like, working out, it's like when you go to the gym, you've got this one moment where it's kind of like, all right, I've isolated this muscle, I've kind of lifted the weight, and it's done. What I love about what you said about yoga is that it does this thing where it's just like it tests out all these other aspects of your body that you just don't get in this artificial environment. Now, I love the gym, and it does a thing that it needs to for me. But from listening to your story, it's like what you found from doing this was the fact that it put you into the state where you really had to push yourself, and you had to push yourself so hard that it made you present. And what I'm wondering is that, has that spilled out into other areas of your life as well? Like, has that presence of mind, that focus, has it strengthened other areas, or is it just an isolated event that only takes place during yoga? And I guess
no, it definitely has. And we touched on this a little bit in the beginning. I think really briefly, it was like one of the things I had to learn was like being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And that's a big thing in yoga. You'll even hear teachers talk about it, like breathe through the uncomfortability. Like it's not going to last like forever. You know what I mean? We might hold this and your leg might feel like it's going to fall off, but like just breathe through it and it's going to be over. So like that type of stuff from it has definitely carried over. Just knowing like that, learning that like nothing's going to last forever. You know what I mean? And like, while it may seem like it's going to at the time, like it's not, you know what I mean? Everything has like a cycle, everything comes to an end. If you just breathe through it, accept where you're at, and like everything will be fine, you know?
So you found a way to really just, I guess, address your inner conflict through yoga and has yoga been that instrumental, or has it just been
It has. So, well, one, just the simple act of starting to do yoga and like being okay with telling my guy friends that I'm obsessed with yoga.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? Or like telling my gym buddies, like, yeah, like I'm not doing leg day with you. I'm going to this yoga class. You know what I mean? And then they all started coming here and there. But so like that, like just the simple uncomfortability of like admitting that like I was obsessed with yoga. But it turns out it's actually some of the classes I go to, it's more guys like me than it is girls. It's not, there's a very stereotypical thing about yoga that's just not true at all. And then the other thing would just be, it helped me, a big part of recovery is acceptance. It's a big word you'll hear in AA, NA, like the 12 steps. It's a big, big part of it. And stuff like that situation I just described, where like it may seem like you're holding something forever and your legs shaking and trembling, but it's not. Like that helped me, I guess, become okay with acceptance, if that makes sense. Like, I guess being mentally able to like flip that switch of like, all right, like I'm accepting that this is where I'm at. Like I'm not just going to run away like I used to. And like, we're going to get through this. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to make it. So I think I didn't expect that one to happen, that my acceptance to get better from yoga. But I think that was probably the biggest thing, aside from the physical stuff, that I got out of doing yoga. Just like my acceptance. I was bad at it, man. Early recovery, I was bad at acceptance.
When you say acceptance, like what do you mean in this regard? Like accepting your faults, accepting what?
That. Accepting like that, when I was telling you about like my first few months in drug court, like it fucking sucked. It was terrible. my first year clean was like, I mean, I had a lot of fun. I met some of the people, like my closest friends now in that first year. But especially those first like 3 or 4 months, man, they freaking sucked. It was not easy. But like acceptance is like, I put myself here, you know, like it's nobody else's fault that I'm living in the sober house at the age of, what was I, 34, 35, you know what I mean? With a bunch of 20-year-olds, and I have no money. I got nothing to my name, and I got to pee in a cup with some guy watching every single day. Like, that was nobody else's fault but my own. The addict Joe didn't want to admit that or believe that, wanted to blame somebody else. If they would have just let me get high, or if I would just have money, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? If I wouldn't have got caught that one time, I wouldn't be in the situation. You know what I mean? But the acceptance is just, this is the way things are. They're this way for a reason. And like, it is what it is. Like, you want to make the best of it, you know?
So the way I can relate to that is, have you ever heard of Michael Singer? He wrote The Untethered Soul.
I've heard, it's a book.
It's a book, yeah.
I've heard of the book.
I haven't read that book, but that's what, I mean, I'm not sure if that's what made him a best-selling author, but the book is like a New York Times bestseller. I think it's #1 New York Times bestseller. I could be wrong. But I didn't read that book, but I read his other book called The Surrender Experiment, and it's phenomenal. And it just talks about his whole journey into like entrepreneurship and like success, and then like this huge debacle that happened along the way, like court stuff, and like, but the whole book is a philosophical book. And what he talks about in this book is, for many years, he tried to find peace. And I forget what exactly happened, but there was a moment in which he finally, like, he started to try to figure out, how do I escape this mental chatter? How do I become more present and just happy and at peace? And he found this book called The Autobiography of a Yogi, and it just spoke volumes to him. And the whole thing about the surrender experiment is, life is supposed to be an act of surrender. That it's not an act of defeat or escapism. Escapism is just denying the truths that are right in front of you. Surrender is the act of like, listen, I accept this moment. I'm no longer resisting it. He went as far as to say, listen, when something bad happens in your life, or something that people would label as bad, don't just label it as bad. Even in that moment, in that one instance, whatever this thing is that's happening, the better frame of mind is to believe that, you know, this is this thing that's happening. And even though this thing is happening as it is, I accept it. And I'm not going to create any friction in my mind. I'm not going to retaliate. I'm not going to negate its existence. I'm going to accept it and surrender to it. And what he found is that when he would surrender to whatever it was, it very much became like he became in tune with the river of life. And he found that as long as he stopped resisting the current and just became very accepting of the moment, surrendered himself to it, then things would just seem to work themselves out. I'm talking about like court cases. I'm talking about him finding the right teachers in the right time. There was this one person that he met like 20 years ago, I think, somewhere. And what had happened, here's what happened. One part of the book. So Michael, he needed to get a business loan for $20,000 to start his business. Mike would eventually become someone who had hundreds of millions of dollars of net worth. But at this point in his journey, he was looking for $20,000, right? And every bank in town rejected him flat out, except for this one bank. And by the way, he kept surrendering to the moment along the way. He kept saying, all right, look, I'm not going to get angry here. This is fine. It's just a game. It's what it is. I'm going to accept this. You're not giving me the loan. Okay, you know what? I love you and I accept you. And I'm going to just go and see if I can find this elsewhere. Maybe the universe is telling me it's not meant to be. He finally gets to this one bank. I think this is the last bank. I mean, he was about to quit. But something in that bank, like the guy was like, the bank manager, whoever it was at the time, he was like, we really want to give the local businesses a shot over here. I don't know what it is about you, but all right, I'm going to give you this $20,000 loan. 20 years later, and I think he ended up becoming successful with that business venture, but 20 years later, this guy, Michael, is traveling around. He happens to find this hole-in-the-wall bar or some restaurant or something, and the only reason he found it was because he was hungry. He was looking for some vegan food, and he couldn't find anything, and then somehow this sign appeared in front of him, like literally a sign. He walks in, and then he gets greeted by someone. It turns out it's the guy from 20 years ago who had given him the bank loan. Now, this guy, he vaguely remembered Michael, but he was like, look, I need to I'm trying to find a $20,000 loan. And at this point, Michael had remembered him, and he said, hey, you were the guy that gave me. And so Michael ended up lending him $20,000. It was just interesting, right? Like, I bring this story up to just kind of let you know that this is something that I'm starting to really just understand myself at a deep level. I've started just surrendering myself to the moments around me, to everything, to every situation. And I've started to have these incredible things, opportunities come up in my life. Like, so outside of here, like I work for the Magnolia Design Center, and I'm an SD, I'm a systems designer. And in this world, I mean, like, this is how you build your book of business. Like, you meet cool people, you give them a showroom tour, things of that nature. And I just, like, after surrendering, this is the crazy thing. Like people on the outside would never really understand it because it's borderline spiritual, right? But what it did for me was, by me surrendering, I stopped being judgmental. I started treating every person like a human being. And it's crazy, right? Like, just treat people like a human being. Like, I would do that. And people I would have brushed off in the past, because like, oh, this person who's standing in front of me, this person's not really, they don't seem like a Magnolia client, or they don't seem like someone's looking for a high-end audio or whatever. You know what? Look, let me just get you your TV and walk away. But I just started surrendering, and customers can tell when you're brushing them off, or when they're fully engaged. And I just became fully present. I'd lock eyes, I'd smile, and I just like surrender. It didn't matter what it was. And then it turned out that things just started to fall into my lap. Like, this one guy came up to me. He had like a pair of like busted headphones. Who wants to deal with a customer who has busted headphones? I mean, that's not really gonna write your like commission check, right? But like, I surrendered to the moment, and now like this guy's coming back in tomorrow. He owns like 15 restaurants. It's like things like that. Now he wants me to do like a consult at his job and at his restaurant that he owns. Like, it's for lighting control. And I've had other clients that similarly, just like, because I surrendered to the moment, things just happen to open up, and it comes from a place of true love and acceptance. And I'm wondering, like, I know you didn't use that vernacular, you didn't call it surrender, but
so in I guess the recovery world, surrender is probably the most popular word you'll hear.
Really?
At a meeting, yeah. Surrender, acceptance is a big one. They're somewhat interchangeable. They have a little bit different of a meaning depending on what you're talking about, but they're pretty interchangeable. The surrender piece, the surrender and acceptance are basically like that first part of the 12 steps.
Okay.
Like, you're surrendering to the fact that like I'm done here. You know what I mean? Like, I can't keep doing this. And like the acceptance starts to come in there, where like literally the first step is just admitting that you have a problem, like accepting that you have a problem. Like, I'm an addict. You know what I mean? Like, I am a drug addict.
Yeah.
No, like, I'm not going to be around the bush. Like, no, I'm a drug addict. You know, and then from there you start to surrender and start to get into like the real work.
So what's interesting is, like, I used to resist surrender because I almost thought like, oh, well, positive thinking. A bad situation happens.
It's not negative.
It's not negative. It's not. That's the thing. Like, but like, people on the outside, even a former sense of me, I used to resist surrender because I used to think, oh, well, I've got this problem, but let me just think myself into a happy thought. But
it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. You've got to really, because the fact is, by you thinking about some positive thought, you're actually resisting the thing that's happening right in front of you. And that resistance energy is negative.
So there's a couple things that I learned and I try to, I guess, I don't want to say live by, but like I try and keep in the front of my mind is our feelings, whether they're, and there's an old sponsor years ago used to say this to me all the time, whether they're valid or invalid, you still have to feel them.
Yeah.
You know, like you still have to feel like whether, like you were saying, oh, this guy, like the guy with the broken headphones, like this fucking guy, like
right, this fucking
shit,
guy,
you know,
right?
Like invalid feeling, but you still have to feel that way. You know what I mean? Like it's not optional. Like even if I'm blowing a situation completely out of proportion and it makes me feel like really upset or something, and even if it's just so like not reality, I still have to feel upset. You know what I mean?
And you have to not resist it. That's the thing. Don't try to. I'm not saying like don't be like defeated by your upset, but just my name is Joe. All right, I know I'm feeling upset. Let me just surrender to this. Let me just feel this fully. Let me go into this and just fully embrace. You can't have
the highs without the lows. You know,
right?
And then the other thing that I try and stick by is I just lost my train of thought.
Highs and lows, upset. You gotta embrace this.
Oh, I know. You had said something when you were talking about the Magnolia stuff and this is something that I help with some like running groups at my work sometimes. And one of the things that I kind of bring up a lot, clients are probably getting sick of it, is learning the difference between good selfishness and bad selfishness. And like you were saying, I think you made me think of it when you were talking about I forget what you said.
Material wealth or something.
Yeah, something. But like, there's a big difference. Right? Like, it's okay to be selfish. I used to have this like negative. I think of selfish. I think it's like an immediately bad thing. I think that's what you were talking about. That made me think of it. But like, there's good selfishness too.
Talk about that. What's good selfishness? Because I agree, and I just want to hear your thoughts.
Good selfishness to me would be, I'm not gonna go put myself in this situation because I know it's a bad situation for me, even though I know it might make the people who are, I don't know, inviting me to be there happy. Like I don't care if you get mad at me or not. Like I'm not gonna go do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Good selfishness is another thing I kind of keep in the front of my mind is like keeping my side of the street clean. Like, and sometimes that might mean me being a dick, but like I can't wake up every day and get another day clean unless my side of the street is clean. You know, unless like that again, like back to I don't know why I'm talking about the steps so much because I'm not that type of guy. There are these like AA and NA warriors that just like 12 steps are the only way. And like, I'm not like that. But like, it gets into that like daily, like moral inventory, like just always keeping my side of the street clean. And like, that might mean like, I don't know, like at work, I'm high up in the company. You know what I mean? I manage people, like I help run the company. I mean, I'm part of like the future of the company, like planning for the future of the company. Sometimes that comes with me being a dick, and like I am not that kind of person. I don't like to be that kind of person. So I try like just an example, like go have a conversation, be like, look, I wasn't trying to be mean to you, but like this is how it is. You know what I mean? Like that to me is like good selfishness, cleaning my side of the street. You know what I mean? The bad selfishness would just, I mean, I think we all know what that is. You know what I mean? Like only looking out for myself and not caring about other people. Like only putting yourself in situations that are good for you. You know? That was probably every relationship I had until I got clean this time around was selfish. I wasn't hanging out with you unless you could do something for me. You know? Like unless you want to figure out a way to come up with some money and go down and buy some drugs, why are you calling me? You know? Like that type of thing. Yeah.
It's a really interesting perspective, selfishness, because so I'm not sure if you remember, but I used to be obsessed with Ayn Rand's material, or Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead.
I think so, yeah.
I used to love it. I mean, it was transformative for me. And well, her philosophy is the virtue of selfishness. Now, anyone on the outside, I mean, people who criticize her, who haven't read her material, they think, oh, well, that's Ayn Rand. Oh, she's all about selfishness. No, like it's the greatest play on words in literature. It was at least one of the greatest play on words. Her whole idea about selfishness is true selfishness is a moral concept, because selfishness in her philosophy is a selfish man is a man who acts in accordance to his values and to procure those values. And in this case, as someone who's recovered, you had to figure out, what are my values? What are the things that I love in my life that I want to hold and keep? And if it is my family, then I'm going to do whatever I can to fight for my family, for my freedom, for my love, for all these things. A man who lacks any sense of self is someone who doesn't give a shit about any of that type of stuff and will just kind of do whatever he wants and kind of get self-absorbed and just become like a druggie and all that type of stuff. And so, like, you're right. There's the bad selfishness, then there's the good selfishness, and your selfishness is based on a foundation of virtue. Where yes, you're not going to go out and hang out with the wrong crowd, because you know that if you do that, it's not just going to impact Joe. It's going to impact the things that Joe values, which are like your girlfriend and her daughter and your mom and all these things that you've built up selfishly for yourself. But because you value them, you're going to choose things that uphold that value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that wasn't something I started to like think about a lot until the last maybe like 6 months or something. But that's a big one for me. And now lately I've been working on trying to like point out actual examples of good selfishness versus bad selfishness. Like that was a good one I gave, I guess, the good selfishness, but like, I guess more experiences that I've been through. I guess being able to recognize it right away. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's about really, in that case, I would think, so figuring out who you ultimately want to become, future state from here, and then you build a code of values in accordance to that. Who do you, like, what's next for you? I know, like, right now you're happy just living this normal life and life has been anything but normal. But now, is there a future drive for more now that you've got this foundation in place? Or are you trying to first see if you can go 10 years clean and then from there?
Well, there's a saying in the rooms of any Tulsa fellowship that you don't get your marbles back until 5 years. And that for me is September. So hopefully I get those back in September, but we'll see. That's to be determined. Yeah, it's weird. So, you know, as an addict, like it's never enough. Like I always want more of anything that I can get. And as content as I am right now, like I'm happier than I've ever been. I feel better than I've ever been. I'm in a better position, I guess, just from like a society norm type point of view. Like I got a good job, like got all the things I guess I'm supposed to have at my age. But I want more. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what it is. I mean, lately it's just money. But I don't know if that's just me. I feel like that might be like a false desire, thinking that that'll make things easier.
I think it could. I mean, money does buy comfort, but I think, and it's going to be a personal thing. Like, it's not something that it can happen overnight, but I think it comes down to just accepting who you are now. And if you're happy with who you are now, then the Joe who's pursuing money now is a different Joe from like 10 years ago. Under that compass, like in that mindset, you were doing things just to kind of dig deeper into your hole.
I mean,
you were running from yourself.
Exactly. So my Clean date is September 28th.
September 28th, okay.
So 5 years ago this time, it's July 14th?
Yeah.
I was in a bad spot. Like a not good spot at all. When I decided to go into rehab that day, I came out of there with, I think I owned literally 5 things. Like they all fit into a school bag. I did that drug court program. I was working as like a shorter cook. Then I took this part-time job driving a van at a rehab, which is where I work today. And I worked my way up to VP of operations.
Really?
So, I mean, and I did that and if any my clients or friends see this, they're gonna never let me hear the end of it. But I did it by one of the most popular sayings in any recovery is 1 day at a time. Like I did it, I just always try and do the next right thing for both me and the people around me, regardless of what that is. And I just I wake up in the morning and I just try and make it back to bed without getting high. That's my goal.
Does it still kind of claw at you every day?
No. I mean, it does we talked about that earlier, like it does get easier, but at the same time, it doesn't. It's not as consuming as it was. And any thought I do get anymore are like fleeting thoughts, But it's still like no matter what I do in life, and if you research it, there's a lot of incredibly successful people that are in recovery. My recovery is first and foremost. Like nothing, all the other stuff that I have or will ever do will not happen without the recovery.
Do you feel like you've recovered? Or is that going to be validated September 28th?
No, I feel, yeah.
You feel like you've recovered? Not
cured, but I feel I'm a person in long-term recovery.
So
I was just taught that the moment you think you have, and I've actually lived it, is the moment you think you are good is when you slip up.
Okay.
And that's happened to me before, where I've had some clean time, probably when I first met you, and you get away from the recovery stuff, and next thing you know, you're picking up.
So do you still have to continue with the Narcotics Anonymous meetings and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, my attendance lately has been off, but yeah, I go in and out with it. I have a really good group of friends in recovery. And these days I've surrounded myself with people that I'm not afraid to call up and tell anything, which is important.
Are you building towards something more? Do you eventually plan on having kids someday, or do you plan on buying a house? Do you want
buying a house for sure? The kids thing, you'd have to ask my girlfriend about that one. Don't know.
Yeah.
But no, man. I mean, no, I'm happy right now, and I'm not sure of my next steps, but it's been on my mind lately. So I'll update when I figure it out.
But you're happy now. And that's the most important thing. You're fully accepting of your life as it is. Yeah. You've got your yoga still, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How's that?
I mean, it's been a little messed up lately because of everything going on around us. But all my working out and stuff has been messed up lately because of that. So I just need to. Maybe it's my addict mentality. I struggle with doing what I saw you doing, working out at home and all. For me to work out, I need to almost treat it like a job. I need to drive to the gym, go there, do what I went there to do, and leave. Otherwise, I'm sitting in front of my computer or sitting on my couch.
Yeah.
It's just how I'm wired. You know what I mean? I do. The last 2 weeks, I started working out at home. Like I do it, but not at the intensity when I go to the gym.
And even then, that's like that's good. That's progress.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't for me. Like I work out now, but I mean, there was a time when I was like 223.9 pounds, pushing 224. I was eating junk food left and right. Like I wasn't working out.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to like build all these rituals into my life to get to where I am now. So the fact that I'm posting on Facebook, oh, yeah, I went to the gym, like I fully acknowledge how hard it is for a lot of people to even muster up the stamina to actually just lift something and go. Because it's hard, but it's not like, I know what you mean when you say that there's been some levels of progress that you've made. And now the fact that you're even able to lift or work out at home alone, that's great. I think that like, from what I'm learning by meeting all these people is that success really is dependent on the person. And there's just so many factors involved. I mean, what if you weren't an addict? Where would your journey be now? But I think in this case, the fact that you are, it's beautiful because there's something that you can share with the world. And I think that once you get to the point where like September 28th hits, I think you're probably going to be in the best state of your life ever. I mean, things are looking up and you continue to build things into your life, but you're not just rushing after them. It feels like you put a lot of thought into it. Like you put a lot of thought into that car. You're like, do I really want this car? Is this a bad thing? Is it a material possession? All right, let me just get this car. Now you're happy with that choice. Seems like a lot of your choices are now long-term because you want to make sure that these are not just fleeting things.
Yeah, and it's also too that it goes back to that higher power stuff, like just some kind of faith. Like it's, it'll happen. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen. You know what I mean? Like that was a hard thing for me to accept and surrender to, but just my experience. That's kind of how the world works.
Are there experiences that you've had that validated that belief?
I think being 40 years old with only 5 years clean, all the other times I've tried, why didn't I get it then? I'm a smart guy. I have 2 incredibly successful brothers. My family's successful. I knew better. Met people like you, like other people. Like I have a lot of friends in and out of recovery. I knew better. I knew I shouldn't be shooting heroin.
Yeah.
But what happened, September 28th, 2015, that was different than whatever day, July in 2012. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's probably the most obvious one. Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any specific ones, but I think that's a pretty obvious one.
That's big. I mean, it's huge. I mean,
maybe this job, I always knew, like my mom used to always tell me she thought I should help people for a living. And I had a friend who works at this place as a therapist, and he was like, you should try working in treatment now that you're clean. And I was like, all right, he'd bugged me for months, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll drive the van. And, I mean, that was all I was qualified to do at the time anyway. And I did it for like 6 weeks, maybe. I was working 2 jobs. I was working as the cook and then driving the van at night. And I was still doing all the drug court stuff. And every day was like 15-hour days of just running around and like people on my back all the time, and I quit the job at the rehab. I was like, I'm done. Like, it's funny looking back at it now because I was making such shit money as a short order cook under the table. But I was like, this is all the money I need. You know what I mean? I was like, I got more than money I know what to do with. I was making like $100 a day. You know what I mean? But at the time, it was all I needed. I was still smoking. So like I was able to buy cigarettes and like whatever. buy a shorty from Wawa and pay my rent at the sober house. Like, I didn't need anything else. And so I quit. And then like a week later, my boss came. He was like, "Hey, I want you to come back." He's like, "I'll give you a full-time job." I was like, sold. And I was driving the van full-time for a while. And then went to office manager. And then I think it was director of operations after that. And now VP of operations. And just slowly learned the business inside and out. And, you know.
You've got quite an incredible story. And I just think that there's so many things. The best thing I think a person can do is to build a life based on the lessons that they've learned, to build a path off of those lessons. And there's so much value in what you've learned. It's not, I would find it hard to believe that one day you just kind of toss it out the window. Not that you toss it out the window, but just like, you're not going to become like a Rita's Water Ice stand franchise owner or whatever. It's not that. Like, I feel like...
That sounds pretty nice, though. Free water ice.
Free water ice. Not to knock Rita's, right, for watching this, but no, I feel like there's a lot you've learned, and there's wisdom that comes through the trials and tribulations that you've gone through. So consulting and helping other people. But I mean, this also, there's no reason to rush into it either, because you rush into things and then things get messy. So just be present, focused, and just kind of be in that moment and just surrender to it and be the best version of yourself. And, you know, as you said, take it one day at a time.
I mean, I just think, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you'll agree. I just think I can do way bigger and better than I am now.
Like in what ways?
Just, I guess, career-wise.
But it's a matter of want. That do you want to? Because it sounds like you're content where you are. You're happy.
Well, that's where I'm at. Like, that's where, I guess, for like, where was the issue? Like, what do I want? Like, yeah, I'm happier than I've ever been my entire life. Never been in a better spot since the day I was born. But I think I want more.
And you'll get there when you're ready for it.
And I know that I'm capable of more.
Sure. I mean, yeah, you used to crush it in school. Not that really, I'm not sure if school's a litmus of external success, but you did well in class.
No, but things, I think what you're trying to do, I mean, things that normally come difficult for a lot of people don't tend to be difficult for me.
Right.
For whatever reason, you know. But those subjects we were studying just make sense to me. But you put me in like a history class and I'm like, who cares what date this happened?
Right.
They're like, I don't care about this guy, you know. But that kind of stuff just makes sense to me. The numbers and the science. So maybe that's how my brain works.
Sure, man. Just all I can say is that it's been great talking to you about this. I mean, I'm happy that you were able to share your story, that you were able to find peace through yoga. And it's just crazy how yoga just kind of, it was this big component of your recovery as you're continuing to recover. Happier than you've ever been. You've built a life within the context of your aspirational identity, which I think you've become, and you're becoming more and more of that person every single day. You've found that by you being that stubborn Joe from back in the day, by kind of doing whatever you wanted, sure, you could get whatever you wanted, but it never really made you happy. You couldn't build a life around that. Mm-hmm. There's no honor or prestige or beauty. Like, there's no contribution. And I think that for people just listening, even if you're not an addict or whatever it is, there's just lessons to learn from this conversation, because it's like the idea that, you know, any sense of progress is good. And sure, we have our own distractions, we have our own addictions, we have these things that kind of want to distract us. And in the moment, it might feel like a good thing, but when you look at it from the perspective of it's just a moment in time, and then when you also start to build things, well, the things that you build, you don't want to get rid of. Like for me, like I've lost weight and I never want to gain it back, because I've been down that road where I lose it, gain it. And like, nowadays I joke around thinking, oh, well, I'm skinnier now. I'm good. But like, I could really just use a burger. I wish I was fat again. And I kind of tricked myself into thinking, you know what? When I was overweight and I was out of shape and I didn't have to care about what I ate, I was happy, right? Like you start to think about these things, and it's like when you don't have anything to lose, then what's there to worry about? But the fact is, when you look at other people who are living that lifestyle, they are miserable, and all that they want is to become fit. They want to lose that weight. They want to be healthy. And I can almost say that someone who's like a recovering person, a recovering addict, you might have these moments where you're thinking that, man, like this is good, I'm clean, but like I really wish I could just hit myself like up one day. I wish I can get high. I was so much happier when I was high. You might try to trick yourself into that, but then you look at that person and you realize, well, that person was miserable.
Well, I always not always say it, but like trying to find a way to successfully get high, like a lifestyle to live where I can get high all the time. But my life doesn't completely fall apart.
Is that even a thing?
Completely impossible.
Really?
Yeah.
Even for the rich and famous, right?
I mean, I guess if you have unlimited money, but
even then,
you probably overdose.
You probably overdose.
The drugs I did, you probably overdose.
Probably like Juice WRLD. I mean, you know who Juice WRLD is?
Yeah. One
of the greatest rappers. They're saying he's like the next Biggie, and this guy's insanely talented, and he died.
I mean, for me, it's not possible. Like I said before, man, I am just a heroin addict to my core. And like one's too many, thousands not enough. And like I just don't stop at all. I would choose being homeless and just so I can live down the street from where I buy my drugs over like at the time over like going to rehab and getting my life together. Like I'll figure it out. You don't want to talk to me? Fine. See ya. I would figure it out for a little bit, but it gets old, man. It's cold in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
It's cold outside, man.
And it's crazy because like you go down that path, you think it's innocent, but then no, it makes you a different person. It changes you. It's like the person who starts eating junk food suddenly starts making decisions that only someone who eats junk food would make. And then suddenly you're slipping, and now you're out of shape, and your clothes don't fit you anymore. And suddenly your diabetes is starting. I mean, if you might get diabetes. It's just all these other complications. Like it's hard to be someone who doesn't take care of themselves and then just relies on money to fix everything, right?
Yeah, I'm completely grateful for everything I've been through, even as bad as it got for me. As much as shit as I put my family through, like I'm grateful for all of it. I don't take for granted for even a second the things that I have or the people I have around me these days. Like every bit of time I get to spend with my family, like right now I'm just gonna get in my car and drive home to like my own place, and my fridge is stocked with food. I'm probably gonna eat junk food. I'm gonna be honest.
So. Oh, I do too. Like what's funny is like I want to let you guys know. Lately, I've been having this ice cream kick, so I've been eating ice cream, but within small quantities, and it's this calories thing. And there's that. I mean, there's levels to this stuff, right? But
there's gotta be some type of gratitude for you that like you were at a spot where you were like you did go through that where you gained all this weight and you may have felt like shit, you know what I mean? And may not have liked necessarily like the behaviors that you took on. And now you change those. But like, there's got to be some gratitude for that because for me anyway, that's the kind of stuff that stops me from going back. It's like I told you, like it gets hard to give up the things I've gotten. But like, you need more ammo than that. So like, that's more ammo. The fact that like, it's easy to relive that feeling, right? Like I can very quickly go back in my mind to what it was like when I was out there. And like I see clients come in practically off the street, you know what I mean? And like it brings me back like it was yesterday. And like you know, so you gotta be like grateful for that stuff. Like you need those reminders that like, you know, if you start to slip up a little, because dude, just because I'm recovered and I did some 12 steps that some dude wrote, like I'm fixed. Like no, and I'm far from perfect. I fall short at shit every day. There's stuff I might flip out on my girlfriend or flip out on an employee, or I don't know, do something on my own that doesn't sit right with me. You know what I mean? And like I fall short, but like it's about fixing it and like keeping moving forward and not just letting it snowball into like this big thing.
Yeah, man, we're not infallible. I mean, it's an everyday thing. It's an everyday act of volition. But I found that as we continue to pursue acceptance and surrender, it becomes easier. I found that I actually like myself more when I am a person who surrenders to the moment. I actually have more self-love because I'm more accepting of everything around me. I feel like I'm a better person, and it's like I had to align with what you just said. I had to go through those peaks and valleys where like I like lost a lot of weight and I gained it, and I had to constantly go through these like moments where it's like I'm grateful that I went through those experiences because I know that I'm not infallible. I know that just like you say, you're always an addict to the core. I'm that fat kid at the core. Now, I don't think of myself in that way because I don't think that's also constructive, but I accept the fact that I have the tendency to gain weight quite easily. But on the same notion, what I love to view myself as is, well, if I can gain fat, I can also gain muscle. But I also know that I've been through so many moments where I've been down. It's like the Matrix. You've been down that road before. You know exactly where it takes you. And like you have to have kind of gone through those rough patches to realize, all right, humble yourself. You're following a diet. It works. It's not the fact that you're just some incredible person that you're studying your fit. No, you're following the right steps. You're waking up early, you're measuring your calories, you're going to the gym, you're attending AA meetings, all that type of stuff. Like, of course, it's working. The process is working for you. And because you're following it, it's working. But don't make any mistakes about it. Don't think that if you start to renege on it, sure, an ice cream here, a potato chip there, whatever. I'm talking about the hard stuff, right? If you fully just relapse, then you're very much capable of becoming the person that you were before. And you kind of have to have those reminders to know that you're not infallible.
Yeah, that's like that. Like if you were to leave here and get like a triple bacon cheeseburger, that's like instant gratification, right?
Right.
But like the instant gratification, it happens quick, but then next thing you know, you're like tumbling down this hole, and then you're like, oh fuck, how did I get here? But I had to learn when I first came out of rehab, like, you know, I guess it would be a little under 5 years now. I so quickly wanted to like get to where I'm at today. Like I wanted my own spot. I wanted a new car. I wanted this. I wanted that. I wanted a good job. And like, I was so quick to forget that like, I used drugs for 19 years. Like 19 years of my life, pretty much straight. Like, yeah, I had periods of clean time here and there, but like, I used drugs my whole entire life. And I didn't get to where I got to, where I had nothing and I lost everything overnight. So I'm not going to get to where I'm at today overnight. Like I wanted the instant gratification even still. You know what I mean? Like I thought I was going to go to a couple AA meetings for a month and like, boom, I'm going to have this sick job, sick car, super hot girlfriend, sick apartment. You know what I mean? But that was another big lesson for me, man. Just learning like shit. It takes time, and like your journey with the working out. Like you didn't gain all that weight by having one burger.
No,
it happens over time, and you're not going to lose the weight by eating one lean cuisine and doing chest day real quick.
No,
you know what I mean.
Like for me, it's an everyday struggle in a sense. Because like I'll give you my version of the struggle. I mean, it's not like it's just my struggle. Like
it's the same.
It's the same.
So like before I don't interrupt you, but one of the big rules in just like recovery in general is there's no qualifications, and like you're not supposed to. It's not a contest, right? Like just because I shot heroin, and I shot up other drugs, you know what I mean, doesn't make me worse of an addict than somebody who's just addicted to Vicodin.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they got it from dentists and they just take these pills. Like it doesn't make me any worse of an addict. Because what it comes down to is the person who takes the Vicodin and me, we still felt the same feelings. There's still that desire to like, I'll do whatever the hell it takes to get more. I'm going to do it every day. If I can't do it, I can't function. I don't care if I got to lie, cheat, and steal. I'm going to do it. Get the hell out of my way. So like, it's the feelings are all the same. So it's not necessarily the drugs. It's like the addict behaviors and like the addict mentality. That's all the same.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, no, I love that. There's no contest here. It's not like, oh, who's the worst addict? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was shooting heroin in my neck. You know what I mean? I had 2 spots left that I could do. It was my neck and my groin. All my other veins, they're back now, but they were blown out. You know? But that doesn't make me any more of an addict than the guy who's just, I don't know, snorting some coke at the bar on the weekend.
See what
I mean, I could run circles around him if he wants to party, you know what I mean? But like, it doesn't make me any better or worse than him. It's not. We're all just here to get better, you know what I mean?
And I think we have to constantly push ourselves to become better. Like, I think that, yeah, you've gotten to this point where you have these material possessions now, like I said, the car, the girlfriend, and the house. I think that even as content as you are, it's important for you as you start to not lose appreciation for the car. No, I love my Honda Civic. I appreciate the hell out of it. But I think it's still important for us to just keep continuously progressing, only for the fact that we still need to feel like we're growing. Because if we're not growing, then we're decaying in some way. And for me, what was that?
I agree.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be overnight. Remember, it took you 19 years before like you got to where you are now. It's like, it's not going to happen overnight, but to have some milestones that you can feel proud about, I think are very important.
Well, I think too, even just sitting still, I mean, I personally kind of categorize it as growth.
It is.
Anytime you're not moving backwards, because I've had days where it's just kind of off, but I didn't get high.
Right.
That's moving forward.
But I didn't get high, right.
Add another one to the number. You know what I mean? Like, it's another day.
That's such a beautiful. I mean, think about the perspective that you have in your life, like, and it's so like you had to go through what you went through to get through it, but like for you, every day is an act of gratitude because like someone could cut you off in traffic, like someone could flip you off. I mean, you could have someone steal your money from you or whatever, but your whole thing is, I didn't get high. I mean, no matter what happens, today is a day I didn't get high. And from that perspective, there's that level of gratitude. Like, you know what? It's okay. I'm good.
Yeah, I woke up and I didn't get high. I made it back home safely.
It's another day.
I mean, I've had several overdoses. Somewhere I was legally flatlined. There's absolutely zero reason I should be sitting in this chair right now. I've lost a lot of friends running in the circles that I used to run in, that did way less than I did and are no longer here. And that goes back to like the higher power, what's meant to be. Like I had days when I had 2 of my overdoses were intentional. Like I wanted
to kill yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to end. Like I didn't want to do it anymore. Couldn't stay clean. I couldn't, like, no matter what I did, I couldn't stay clean. But that was just an easy way to stop it, you know? But like somehow I woke up Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in that stuff, man. Like what's meant to be is meant to be. Because if we were to get into like really detailed stories, like there's no reason at all that I should be. People die in the drug lifestyle for way less than the shit that I do.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You want to share a story, or do you want to kind of keep that private? I mean,
I don't care. I mean, I don't know. Like most heroin addict. I mean, well, for me, I was at a point where I was doing like 5 or 6 bags a day.
How big is a bag?
Well, they cost $10. They're like, I don't know.
Okay.
And I used to do what they would call speedballs, where it's meth and heroin in the same shot, at the same time. So I got all this money. I had like $400, whatever, which at the $400 when you're going through it might as well be 40 grand. It feels like it's a ton. And I went out and I bought 20 bags. I did 5 of them before I left the city and drove home, and I put the other 15 into one needle, like fully knowing that like it's going to overdose. Just triple the amount. And I used to do 5. Like 5 would mess me out. Like 5, I was out until the next day. Like 5 was probably borderline me. Maybe like 7 was overdosing and I was doing 5, So for me to put in 15 was a lot. And I woke up.
Those are just signs where like, all right, you just have to be grateful and just realize, all right, there's definitely something here.
There's something going on here.
There's something going on. There's meaning. Yeah. There's a reason why I am where I am.
And I have friends that, relapsed and did 1 bag and overdosed and passed away.
Just one bag?
1 bag.
How does 1 bag do it?
I mean, these days you never know. I mean, it could be fentanyl.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? A lot of times it's, you get 3 months clean. You think you can do the same amount you did before. You know what I mean? That's usually what happens, but it could be a number of reasons. But stuff like that, like guys that I knew could like hold their own. Tiniest little bitch takes them out,
Wow. That's just a lot. Like I know for like what I've done for my life is like I hit these milestones. Like right now I weigh 165, but I mean I this is good. I mean I used to be 224, and for the longest time I was hovering around 175 weight wise. But now what I have to do in order to get to 165, I was getting down to like 1,600 calories a day. Not starving myself because I love to eat. I'll throw down, right? But just to kind of discipline myself, I was doing 1,600 calories a day, and I don't eat past 4:30 p.m. for most of the time. Like even today, it's like 6 o'clock now. I'm probably not going to eat at all when I get home, and I'm not going to eat till tomorrow morning after I've come home from the gym around 8 a.m., 7 a.m. Like that's just the discipline I have. Some days I'll think, well, this isn't normal. Like, why are you doing this? I mean, like you don't have to. But what I know is that in my life, like this creates a certain level of balance. It keeps my weight where it needs to be. I'm in a caloric deficit most days, but then when it comes down to like parties or weekends or whatever, where there's like people around, there's an excess of food, I can overindulge then, and it kind of balances out. But I know that about myself. I know that like for me, if I don't build these patterns in my life, if I don't have these rituals, if I just go willy-nilly every day, then yes, that sandwich, those fries, they're gonna just totally be bad. However, what I've also noticed is that if I want to get to a deeper level of like spirituality, if I want to get to a deeper level of like physique, and then it's almost like it's incumbent upon me to monitor my health more regularly. And even when it comes to those parties where there's food around, even then I gotta still monitor myself. So it's like there's no way around it. Like if you want to become better and better and better, you're gonna have to become more disciplined no matter what it is.
Yeah. And you found what works for you.
I found what works for me, but it's a knowing of myself. It's like know thyself, right? And I know now I can probably coast along and be 165 for a while, but no, I want to lose more. I want to become like 6% body fat. That's what I say on Facebook now. Will I ever reach there? I don't know.
That's tough, man. 6%.
Right. It's like whatever, right? Like, but it's a goal. My whole thing is constantly be pushing yourself to become the best version of yourself, and then love the goals, love the milestones that you're hitting, and it makes it less likely for you to fall into bad habits. And that's kind of, and I think, like, would you agree with that? Would you disagree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Absolutely. I want to try yoga now too. Like
man.
I really do. I feel like that's like a missing piece, not a missing piece of my life, but like I'm already doing like,
especially if you want to grow. Are you trying to grow, like physically?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to grow and get stronger, you combine the yoga with the weight training, and it has a big effect.
Does it?
Yeah. If you do yoga maybe twice a week, you know what I mean?
Because I do a lot of I do weight training, but I do a lot of calisthenics as well, which is body movement.
Well, I mean, that's still weight training in a way.
Okay, so yoga is completely different then.
Yeah. If you do it, it'll transform your other workouts for sure. My flat bench, just from after maybe 6 months of regular yoga, went up by like 30 pounds.
Really?
Yeah. Because you also learn how to. I kind of struggled with it up until I started doing a lot of yoga. Was the like mind muscle connection, doing, I don't know, like say like dumbbell presses, right? Like with my right arm, it was all my right chest, but with my left arm, I tended to use a lot of more of my tricep than my chest. Like I would always hold my hand there just to like feel. Even doing this, like my left chest doesn't get I can't engage my left as much as I can my right. So like that kind of stuff, I get a lot from it.
I gotta try it. I mean, I want to keep building myself up to become the best version of myself.
You should try it. I'm telling you, it'll change your workout.
Like calisthenics, like I couldn't do 20 push-ups, but I can lift weights. Now, because I've been doing push-ups and pull-ups, it's transformed my weight.
Yeah.
It's formed my body in a special way. But I think yoga is definitely gonna be helpful. What I'm really interested about yoga is what you said to me, which is like it makes you become so present. It really makes you exert so much of yourself. And if I can do that in an hour of yoga, then what will that mean in other areas of my life?
It'll help your recovery times and stuff like that from your other workouts.
Where do you train? In Philly?
I go to Lifetime, yeah.
Lifetime?
Yeah, they do it there. That's where my girlfriend's the yoga manager there.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I go all over. I mean, I like to try different spots. I mean, I'm down to go wherever. But like the place that I regularly go to is Lifetime. So
yeah, let's like plan sometime. I guess when some of the stuff dies down a little bit.
Yeah.
What was that?
I'm
in too. This has been enlightening. So, dude, thank you so much. Is there like a final message that you'd like to share with the audience in terms of what we talked about, in terms of helping them wherever they are? Because remember, like it's not a contest. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're an addict, if you're addicted to heroin or to potato chips. I mean, there's things that I think everyone can take from what you shared with us today. So is there like a final thing that you'd like to say?
No, I mean, just thanks for having me. And I guess if anybody has any questions or needs help or like wants to talk more about it, like, I guess I'm actually curious if you notice the difference, but nowadays, like, I'm an open book, man. Like I used to be pretty guarded probably when I first met you. I mean, feel free to reach out to you if anybody wants to talk to me. Like I'm not a hard guy to find. I'm not a hard guy to track down, and I got nothing to hide. I'm willing to help anybody that needs it.
There you go. So I mean, so we can do it that way. If you want to reach out to Joe, I guess they can reach out to me and then just message me and let them know they want to talk to you. And then you're okay with me like sending them your way then?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I have an Instagram. I'm on Facebook rarely. And that's it. I mean, I don't like have any kind of business or anything that I
of course.
Market, so
I guess if they were to follow you on Instagram, what's your Instagram handle?
Flownuts with 2 S's, I think.
FLONU
TSS.
Sure.
Let me look.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
There you go. You can follow Flownuts on Instagram and then message him if you have any questions.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, it's been a pleasure. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.